my friends, and welcome to the next episode of The Casual Smoker. Today we're going to be smoking 2 racks of bone-in pork ribs. And this is a great way to do it. It's called the 3-2-1 method, and we're going to take you step by step through this whole process. So after you unwrap the ribs, and I always like to rinse them off first just to make sure it gets all the blood and juices off, then you're going to go through and cut off all of the extra fat or pieces of meat that are just hanging off the sides. And you'll see here how you trim the fat off this middle section, and then also on the ends there tends to be a lot of fat too. Then you want to flip the ribs over, and you'll find on the back side of the ribs along the bone there's a real thin layer of flesh, like a sinew, like a film that's on there. You can just take your butter knife and put it under the edge and pull it up, and it'll come off, if you're careful, in one large piece. Here's a little piece of it here where you can see what it looks like. Just peel all that off. It'll make it much easier and much more tender to eat later on. After you pull that sinew off and trim the fat off, then I like to cut the ribs in half so they're in 4 smaller pieces. And then I rub them down with some Famous Dave's Rib Rub. That's one of my favorite ones to use. You can buy it at any grocery store. After the ribs are cut in half and rubbed down with Famous Dave's, then we're going to place them on the grates. I always rub the grates down with olive oil. It makes them a little bit slick and easier to clean later. Trust me on that. If you rub them down with olive oil first, it'll make your cleanup process later on a lot easier. So I space them out on the grates and got the smoker fired up outside, and we'll be ready to put these things on. Today we'll be smoking with hickory wood. Pork tends to have a little bit of a sweeter flavor anyway, and so the hickory is a nice complement to that flavor. We don't want too heavy of a smoke. We want a nice light smoke that's going to enhance the flavor of the meat. Once the smoker has reached 200 to 225 degrees internal temperature, then it's time to put the meat on. I've got both racks of ribs inside the smoker with the hickory wood already going strong. So we're going to close this baby up. We'll check back in 3 hours. The meat has been on the smoker now for 3 hours, and we're following the 3-2-1 technique for smoking these ribs. 3 hours on the smoker, just flat on the grate. Then we're going to take them off here in just a second. We're going to wrap them in foil and put some what we call a bath on the ribs. I'll explain that to you in just a minute. Then they'll go back on the smoker tightly wrapped in foil for 2 hours. Then after 2 hours, I'll take them out of the aluminum foil and baste them with some barbecue sauce and put them back on the smoker for 1 more hour, and then it'll be time for dinner. So let's take a look at where we've got now after 3 hours of smoking. Ooh boy, those things look fantastic. We're going to take them off the smoker right now. They'll only be off for about 20 minutes. We'll wrap them in foil, put some bath on them, and put them right back on. So these are the ingredients that we're going to use as we make the bath that these ribs will cook in for the next 2 hours. I have 2 full slabs of ribs that we're smoking today, so I'm doubling the amount of ingredients that you would need to use if you were only smoking 1 slab of ribs. So for my bath today, I'm using a half a cup of 100% pure apple juice. I'm using 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, and 1 tablespoon of butter for each slab of ribs. So in our case, we have 2 full slabs that are cut in half. So that makes 4 sections of ribs that'll be wrapped in aluminum foil. So each section of rib will get 1 tablespoon of butter. We'll put the brown sugar, the apple cider vinegar, and the apple juice together and mix it all up until the brown sugar is completely dissolved. And then we'll put this over the ribs in just a few minutes. I'll show you how to do that. Add that tablespoon of butter at the end, and this will get ready to go on the smoker. So I'm going to make a little bowl out of aluminum foil. I'm going to place each section of ribs inside that little bowl. Then I'm going to put a tablespoon of butter on top of each one. And once I make sure it's going to hold the bath, then I'll pour the bath in. I've already done the other ones, so this is the last one of the 4. I'll pour the bath in, make sure it gets all over it. It's going to stay inside that little bowl. Then I'm going to wrap it tight like that. And we're going to put it back on the smoker for 2 more hours. The ribs have been on the smoker now for the 2 hours in the aluminum foil. So it's time now to pull them off. We're going to take them out of the foil. I'm going to lay them back directly on the grate, and I'm going to baste them with some barbecue sauce, and we'll give it 1 more hour. This is the third part of our 3-2-1 smoking process for these ribs. So I've unwrapped the ribs, and I put them back on the smoker. Now they'll be on there for their final hour. So now what I'm going to do is about every 15 or 20 minutes, I'm going to open it up and I'm going to baste them. I'm doing 2 of them with barbecue sauce. One of them with Sonny's, of course. One of them with a hickory open pit sauce. So this one is Sonny's and this one is the hickory. And then these other 2, I'm just continuing to baste them with the bath that they cooked in for the past 2 hours. So about every 15 or 20 minutes, I'll just open the smoker up and I'll baste them down a little bit. This will give it a nice crunchy glaze on the outside. And in about an hour, we're going to be ready for dinner. So we're just about done with our last hour of the 3-2-1 smoking process for these ribs. And we're going to take just a quick glance at them. I've been basting them about every 20 minutes for this last hour with either barbecue sauce or the cooking juices. And then I'm going to unplug the smoker and I'm going to let them sit for about 15 or 20 minutes before we serve them. So let's take a look. Oh boy. I'm telling you, those things look fantastic. They smell fantastic. I cannot wait to dig in. Okay, my friends, here's the finished product. That meat is literally falling off the bone. I'm so excited to eat it, to be honest with you. We're matching this with some homemade coleslaw that my wife made and some sweet potatoes. We're going to set this at the table, and the family and I are going to dig in. Like I've said many times, I'm not a professional. I cook it the way I like it, and I think you should too. From the Casual Smoker, we'll see you next time.